All right, everybody, welcome to the February 2024 Disability Ministry Video Roundtable from Key Ministry. My name is Beth from Key Ministry, and I'm happy to have a good-looking group here today to talk about awareness days. And are these something we should use in our ministries? So I do not have an agenda for this. So I really want to hear, like, what brought you to this conversation today? What thoughts do you have about awareness days? Is your ministry, is your church using these at all? If so, how? So I'm just going to open it up to whoever would like to start. And nobody wants to start. So let me ask you this question. So how many of you are aware of awareness days and their purpose? Like, would anybody like to kind of talk? Julie, thank you.
So we're a little frustrated because we don't have that, and we want to have that. And there's been an attempt from time to time. And we thought at one point that people with disabilities and their families were going to be invited to the main stage. So instead of doing that, there was a section. So it's better than nothing. There was a section that was kind of cordoned off for the families and for their family members that have disabilities, and they were highlighted. And the pastor did everything he could. He was wonderful about, letting everybody know that we were there, and, talking to the congregation about how, these people do exist in our congregation. He didn't say it as crass as I just did, but yes. And so he did everything that he could, but we were, and one of our, the pastor that's in charge of ministries at our church even sent a video to Tom and I, just kind of as a side note, with somebody that was doing an awareness day, and the whole stage was filled with people with disabilities, and they were worshiping, and they were singing, and they were doing worship the way that they do worship, and it was beautiful. He sent us a video. This had to have been probably like 4 or 5 years ago. So that's what I got in my mind, and so that's what I would love to see happen, but we haven't gotten there yet. So just, kind of to get the conversation going, that's kind of where we are at this point.
Okay, thank you. And I love that you started us off this way, because that is completely different than what I was picturing for this conversation. So that's perfect, because this kind of broadens the conversation. So you are talking about like a disability awareness Sunday kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So that opens up a whole nother thing that we can discuss. I was actually picturing, so there are different awareness days and awareness months out in the public, and they're usually driven by like an organization. So for instance, would anybody like to share one that they're familiar with? Like, there's a rare disease awareness day. There's
Autism Awareness Month.
Yes, month. Yes. And so there's really something for almost every type of everything, including every kind of disability. And so that's where I was going with this, like, but I think Disability Awareness Sunday would probably make a better topic for us today. But has anybody done any type of, and as Sandra, I know you have done like what do you call, you have a name for it, like a disability Sunday?
Our Sunday, yeah, Disability Ministry Sunday.
Okay.
In the state of Texas, at our SBC churches, it's the second Sunday in July.
Okay.
And the convention just picked that. They had like a committee that was making certain decisions as we expanded what we offer for churches and disability ministry support, and they picked that date. I have had some churches not happy about that date, and I just say, we'll do it anytime you want. I mean, like, it's the date isn't that special. So what we do for our churches, if they want to have that date, we at the state convention create a video that's like 2 minutes long, and we send it out to all of our churches. And then we do a guide where we kind of explain different ways they could do it. They could have people with disabilities serve, just making those families more visible, like Julie was talking about. We use it as a recruiting tool. So you can have like a family give a testimony, and then the disability ministry coordinator comes up and says, we'd love to have you serve in this ministry. Like, there's different ways, different churches of different sizes apply it. Some churches have used it as a way to officially launch their disability ministry. So if they didn't have a ministry before and now they're going to, then they use that Sunday to do that. So those are, and then like when a few years ago, the first time we did it at our church, we did a call. We provided activities for the children's ministry, the youth ministry, and the adult ministry, and gave each one of them calls to action. So like gave them a book they could read, discussion questions they could have, and then a call to action that we hoped they would take in all of their life groups / Sunday school classes as a result of that awareness day.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is a lot of good information. So the purpose is to increase awareness within the congregation of individuals and families with disabilities that are already in the congregation, and like providing opportunities for like really shining a light on the people that are already there. Is that?
Yeah.
correct?
And we do encourage our family, like church members, to say, hey, if you know somebody, if you know a family that has a member with a disability and they don't attend a church, this is a great Sunday to invite them to, something like that. I know some churches do it kind of when they do Sanctity of Human Life Sunday, they may combine that, or kind of put it, if they're doing a series, like a sermon series on sanctity of life, they'll include a disability ministry focused sermon. So that's another way that it could kind of fit into the sermon calendar.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good info. Let me read from the chat for a second, and then we'll open it up. So Lisa shares, we don't do specific diagnoses days because there aren't enough days to cover the number of diagnoses that we have. We do Hope Kids / Lifeline General Disability Awareness Days. We have used it to share statistics, mission field, and vision for ministry, reports on previous years, etc. Our whole stage is full of people with disabilities every week, so this is really geared for new families to catch a glimpse of our mission. Our goal for this day is not just to draw attention to the families we have, but also to the mission field still to be reached. Okay, so that's kind of what we were talking about there. Thank you, Lisa.
I can't find the hand raise button, so I'm just going to actually raise my hand.
A real hand works too. I can see that. Yes.
Yeah. So we kind of do the same thing as what she was just saying. We don't have a set Sunday, but our pastor's very good about bringing me on stage different times throughout the year to give ministry updates, tell what's going on, to tell what we need from our church family. And then our teen and adult groups, most of them start out in our service every week. We have an area marked off for us. And so they're very used to seeing us be part, of the church. So that's kind of how we do it. We don't do a set Sunday. It's just different times throughout the year. And then our pastor also will talk about our ministry and just the importance of that just randomly in his sermons as well. So.
Great. Thank you. I can picture all these different ways of doing it. So this is great. Would anybody else like to share what their church is doing? A second here. All right. Well, let me throw out the awareness days or months that you see on social media. Is there any ministry purpose that could be or should be done with those? I don't even know that my question makes sense, but does anybody have any thoughts about that?
I'm interested to hear. One challenge that we have is, I mean, that criticism that something like autism gets way more attention than something else. So if we have somebody with a different diagnosis and we don't do the same for them,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that holds us back from doing it very often. Sometimes we'll do it just on our social media, like an autism awareness in April, like share a stat about the number of families with autism who don't attend church. And hey, church family, you may have noticed that we are an inclusive church that welcomes families that have a member with autism, and here are some ways to help them feel welcome. So
Mhm.
like we may use our social media for that, but we don't do it in a service because we're just trying to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
And
And I think I
that's
was
in the
thinking
part.
social media. So I love that example that you gave. So it's using an existing, like in April, it would behoove, I mean, that's when Autism Awareness Month is, right? And so kind of tagging that, if you will, or I don't know, hashtag, whatever it is. But relating it to your church, like inviting people into your church family or raising awareness within your congregation. I like that. Lisa shares that they do a caregiver awareness focus in November, and that they've done different things through the years for that. So that's I like that, the raising awareness about the lives of caregivers. I think that's a really important. I like that a lot. Yes,
I agree with Lisa. Like, there's so many days. If we did it, oh, I'm sorry, Julie.
No, you're fine.
If
Go
we
ahead.
did it, okay, if we tried to do every single one, then you're right, we're going to leave somebody out. And I think for our church, I do prefer the way our pastor does it, because hitting on the caregivers, he also hits on that too. The last time I was on stage, he talked about a family that's coming to our church that they hadn't been to church in 26 years before we offered this ministry, because there was no place for their child. And so he kind of does a great job of hitting on all of those things without having specific days. I just think it would be very hard to hit everything in a church service without doing just a general thing.
Yeah, good point. Julie, and then I'm going to read from the chat.
So the pastor that's in charge of our seniors, and by seniors, I mean old people like us. He has a real heart for the caregiver right now, because there are so many of the people within his ministry that are caring for spouses or, other people, parents, whatever. And he has expressed to us, I would love to see, and he's putting together a conference for that purpose. And then he was like, he approached us and said, what you do is a little different than what I'm talking about with the seniors, but it's all caregiving. And I said, it certainly is. And so we had a nice conversation with him about that. And wouldn't it be cool if we had a caregivers conference specifically for, every branch of caregiving, whatever we can think of, and add that in and have different breakouts for the different approaches and the different people that we're ministering to. So I love the idea of caregiver awareness. I think that you could touch everybody with that. That's excellent.
Yeah, good point. And I mean, kind of like disability, if we live long enough, we're probably going to be in a caregiver situation at some point. Yeah. I'm going to read from the chat. So Chris shares, we've done a mental health awareness Sunday during the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, or September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. During this time, we have interviewed members who have struggled with their mental health and emphasized two things. One, the ministries we have for mental health, and two, that those with mental health concerns can still serve themselves. So I love this, Chris. Thank you for sharing. And I don't know if the interviews are live or if they're, pre-recorded videos that are shared. But those can be incredibly impactful. And especially when mental health is mentioned from the pulpit, I think it really can change the congregation. Like when people see that the pastor, the leader, like that they are knowledgeable about, they're aware of mental health issues, and maybe they, if you're a person dealing with, let's say, anxiety or depression, and then it's mentioned from the pulpit, that can be really life-changing for a church. So thank you for doing that. Are the interviews live or are they videos?
They are live interviews.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, which I mean, we have done some video packages where we interact with folks that have that as a part of their story. But specifically for the mental health awareness or suicide awareness month, we felt it would be more impactful to have the person interact live because it feels a little less packaged, a little more raw, which is more valuable.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat. Is there a specific date for Disability Awareness Sunday? So I have a guess here. I don't know that there is, but sometimes denominations, like when Sandra was talking about her denomination has declared that this is the Sunday is that correct, Sandra? That
dates first and last name.
Yeah, we do the second Sunday in July.
Right, but I don't know that there's like a national Disability Awareness Sunday. There might be. I'm not aware. Lisa shared that they've done both live and recorded videos and live, presentations in front of the congregation. Any other experience with a disability awareness or disability ministry Sunday, or mental health awareness or mental health ministry Sunday? Is anybody opposed to the concept? Okay, I really thought people would.
I think in an ideal world, we would be, our churches would be so inclusive and it would just be part of everything and we wouldn't need it.
Right.
But like in Southern Baptist life, we have days, we have Sanctity of Life Sunday, we have missions emphasis Sunday, we have church planting emphasis Sunday, we have children's ministry Sunday. So it's not that odd to have just yet another way that's raising awareness. I think a lot of it depends on the church and how they're using it. I think they could use it in a way that is not encouraging or helpful for families, like where it's out of pity or they feel like they're on display. So I think the application of it could be negative, but I think the idea of it right now, at least, is needed, helpful, necessary.
Yeah, that's very well said. Thank you.
That's what I was going to say. I think, oh, sorry. I would have a problem if that was the only time, like if we just did a one-time thing and it was just to say we did it, I think the heart behind why you're doing it is what matters. And like I said, I would just much prefer it to be, we're talked about all the time, just like everybody else is talked about all the time. And that's kind of what's happening at our church.
I like that. I saw a hand up, but first let me just share. Maria's shared in the comments, National Disability Awareness is July 26th, which commemorates the signing of the ADA on July 26, 1990. So thank you for sharing that, Maria. Deb, did you have your hand up?
I'm new to all this.
Welcome.
I'm a mom of a 35-year-old minister, yada, yada. Don't have a church. I don't like Disability Day. I love Caregiver Day. To me, that's enlightening. Anything that's like she said, like Andrea said, all throughout the year is what it needs to be. And if we don't example it that way, then families aren't going to get it that way. And I don't even know how to put my words together, because this is like my total heart, but my first step into key ministry, although I've watched you guys for a few years. But as I'm going,
Glad you're here.
thanks. As I'm going to speak and stuff, I know this is going to come out. So I need this in a good place before I start doing it from the platform. So for me, it needs to be not the disability, not the autism. Just because the world is saying this is autism month doesn't mean it's autism month for us. For us, it's 365 days a year. Bringing families in from outside, I know there's bridges that have to be made and things that have to be done. So I don't know, but I personally don't like this is Disability Day, because I don't like our disability people go sit over here. You can't. It really bugs me walking to church and they have this. Although I can't stand it worse when 90% of the churches have handicap section in the back row so that you can't see them and they're not disturbing anybody when they can't see back there, because my daughter, for one, is 35, but she's the size of an 8-year-old. So for her to put her back there, she's watching butts while she's, worshiping the Lord, which she does loudly, incoherently to most. So we have issue after issue. Over 30 years, it's been issue after issue of, Mother's Day, sorry, we can't handle your kid. You're a single mom, you got to leave the building. Other times the cameras are on, she's too loud. So I have a zillion things I'm coming with, but the one thing is that, hey, we love you, person. Oh, you have this challenge in this area. Well, I love that person. This person has mental health challenges. I love this person. This person's in the police department and they have their own challenges. This one over here is short. She's fat. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it's challenges, not disabilities. And we've all got them.
Yeah.
But
so what I'm hearing is it's important to just be modeling this all the time. And I think everybody's on the same page. Like, we wish there didn't have to be Disability Awareness Sundays. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And for being here. I want to read from the chat again. So Lisa says, she worked with a church once that decided to do an Autism Awareness Day and have everyone dress in a certain color to show support. There was pushback from some families because they didn't identify with that representation. They rethought their approach after that. Yeah, so this falls into the category of, like many things in ministry, we're not going to please everybody. There's lots of examples of that in ministry. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yes, Julie.
I just wanted to share, Deb, I really hear your heart, and my heart goes out to you. We are the parents of a 29-year-old who looks like an 8-year-old, so we get that totally. But I wanted to, I wanted to say that the people that we know of that would love to have opportunity to be in service and seen don't get that opportunity as much as we would love for that to happen. And those are the people that we would invite, if they wanted to be on the main stage, to be on the main stage. So I just wanted you to hear our hearts, where we're coming from as far as disability awareness would be. And we've got we probably have about 20 people in our adult disabilities group who are pretty high functioning, and yet, they feel isolated from society, and they have become amazing friends to each other. I could see them rocking, being on the stage together because they love each other so much. And I would love for the congregation to see the love they have for each other and the community that they have built for themselves. And they're all over the place. So it's a wonderful group, and I would love to see that happen. But I hear what you're saying about not putting people on display for the sake of putting people on display because you have an agenda. So I hear that, and I agree with you 100%.
And Julie, the example you gave about the group that's like such a cohesive, supportive group for each other, that is so cool for the rest of the church to see, because shouldn't we all be doing that for each other? Like, shouldn't we be in Christian community supporting each other? you know, if your church has like small groups or community groups or whatever you want to call them, like what an awesome example of what that could look like. Yeah. Let's see. So, okay, so, and then the chat, so Deb says presenting this group as an example is awesome. Yeah. Maria, that's good. This is to Julie. Where is the line in bringing awareness for support? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Yeah. But I love that we're thinking these things through.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, for me once. Let's see if I can I have so many thoughts floating around, and maybe I can get one or two out, and then we can go from there. But the idea, I think Lisa said about there's so many needs that you don't want to take one each day and emphasize it. And then, well, you know, just go with that one. The pastor, whenever he ends his sermon or even begins with a prayer and the prayer list and shares with everybody prayers that throughout the congregation, and then he says that there's so many more, and then addresses the congregation in that there are some needs here that we don't know about, and Jesus is here to speak to those needs too. And so it would be wonderful if we didn't have to emphasize any special need except to turn all of us to the cross. Because at the end of Amy sharing one time, this was my road testimony, the pastor interacted with her and then went off and introduced the next song. A comment that he made, and I think it's shared by so many, is that we all have needs. We all have special needs. And we have a daughter who tells Julie that she thinks everybody has special needs. And so, because if there's a problem, we say, oh, well, that's their need, that's their special need. But it's true. It is true. And so how can we minister to each other without emphasizing the strangeness of a need or another? And I think that in heaven we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to welcome each other with open arms, no matter what our difficulty or whatever our need is. And so I don't know where that goes. It's almost saying let's not have special needs days, but I don't know, humanly speaking, if that's possible, because there has to be an awareness that we all need Jesus, and we all need forgiveness of our sin, and then we all need to be pointed toward a new life, a new heart. And how is that emphasized? I think children's ministry does that very well in teaching each child, a young child, from scripture. So rambling thoughts, but
beautifully said, Tom. Thank you. Yeah, that's who wants to follow that up? I don't know who can. Any other thoughts? All right, well, I want to say that not really related to this, but we hope that all of you will come to Disability in the Church, which is the conference that we're having May 1st through 3rd in Orlando. And many of you that are on here are actually speaking at the conference. But it's such a good time to continue these conversations. We've created several opportunities throughout the conference this time where ministry leaders are going to be able to have conversations along these lines. So it's kind of like our Disability Ministry Video Roundtables, but live. And so we really hope that you'll join us. We're still in the early bird ticket pricing till the end of this month. And so we hope that you'll join us and just continue these conversations, and that you'll continue to plug into these roundtables as well. We will have our idea share on the first Monday of each month. So that's coming up March 5th, I believe. And this time next month, we're going to do something a little bit different. So instead of our usual Disability Ministry Video Roundtable, we're going to do a Mental Health Ministry Video Roundtable. So you will all receive the invite to that. It'll, so same link that we always use, and hope you'll join us for that discussion. So thank you for taking the time today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.